Hello, welcome to the video tutorial on playing Suriya The Last Horizon with me, Keng Samaki. Now let's take a look at the game setup from the beginning. As you can see here, this is the setup for 3 players. We suggest using a playmat to assist in organizing the layout for 2 to 3 players. Our planning will follow the layout marked with dashed lines, specifically designed for 3 players. In contrast, the solid lines will be utilized for games involving 2 players. At the beginning, each player will receive 7 starter cards specific to their faction. While the starter cards are the same for everyone, they differ in the faction symbol located in the bottom right corner. The manual will specify which starting cards are included. After that, each player will have their own stack of faction cards for their faction. For instance, I am currently choosing the human faction. The faction cards deck consists of 30 cards in total. Each tribe features 10 distinct card designs with 3 copies of each design. Following this, we will choose 3 cards that have unique names. Combine the 3 selected cards with the starting deck for a total of 10 cards. Shuffle this deck to create our initial draw pile, as the game is fundamentally based on deck building mechanics. In the future, as we keep playing, we will gain new cards to add to our draw pile, making our deck gradually stronger. After that, place the starting deck in front of us to prepare to begin playing. After that, we will draft the terrain. Many people might ask why drafting is necessary. The reason is that the terrain in this game greatly influences the gameplay. In this game, there are 5 types of terrain: plateau, desert, mine, forest, and lagoon. These 5 types of terrain will provide different buffs and debuffs to the squad that occupies those areas. For example, with a mine, when our squad takes control of this area. In that squad, we have 3 or more of our units. This squad will receive a buff that adds 2 additional damage and increases defense by 2. As for the desert, it requires 5 or more units for that squad to receive a buff, add 1 damage and 1 defense. If we have fewer members, we can stay here but won't get buffed. Next is the forest. The squad that occupies this space will get a damage buff of 1 and an immediate defense boost of 1. However, moving into the forest is a bit tricky, as players must discard 1 card from their hand before they can move their squad in. And what's important is that the forest is a hidden space. The term hidden space in this game means that within this space, you will not be targeted by any cards or special skills except for normal combat or standard attack commands. There will be a lagoon, similar to the forest, where players must discard 1 card from their hand when moving in. Think carefully before entering this type of space. The lagoon has a big flaw. People in this area lose all defense power immediately. So it's not a place to occupy unless some factions have special abilities to survive here. Ultimately, the plateau is the highest space in the game. It affects combat advantages. Players on the plateau get +2 defense and +1 damage, but must discard 2 cards to enter. Plateau's edge is that it cancels bonuses from other spaces in battles. For example, enemies at mine get no bonuses. This shows terrain's importance. Moreover, staying on higher ground gives another benefit. Players up high can roll an extra die when fighting. Each player receives 1 height upgrade piece to enhance the terrain at setup. In the section for drafting terrain for 2 players, we will select terrains that have symbols indicating they are for 2 players, mix them up, and then reveal 5 cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Just like this. Then, the first player will pick and place 1 tile on the board, which can go in any open spot on the map. In a 2-player setup, the headquarters of each faction will be directly opposite each other. Let's assume we place it this way first. The second player picks 2 terrain tiles and can put it anywhere on the layout. The first player will then place 1 more piece. After that, we'll discard the last piece and reveal 5 new terrain tiles. The second player picks 1 tile, then the first picks 2, and finally, the second picks 1 more. The terrain draft is complete. In the case of the 3-player game format, we will have a different method for placing the terrain, which follows the dotted lines indicated at the beginning. We will set the location of the main base or headquarters at these 3 corners. After that, we will hand out 4 terrain tiles to each player. Players will take turns placing 1 tile at a time until the board is completely filled. The first player will start by placing 1 tile, followed by the second player placing 1 tile, and then the third player placing 1 tile. Place items continuously until all slots are filled. When completed, it will take the form of a map like this, and wherever there is a plateau, we will elevate the highest level base to raise the terrain like this. In the game, there can only be a maximum of 2 spaces. Subsequently, all players will get 1 mid-level upgrade base each. If there are 3 players, each will receive 1 base. You can place it to raise other terrains by 1 space each. In this situation, the higher terrain has the right to re-roll one die when battling against lower terrain. The placement begins with the first player and continues to the last player. This concludes the draft terrain setup for 3 players. The next step, before beginning the game, is for each player to place 2 basic units from their respective factions at their headquarters. Everyone will follow this procedure, alright? We will take the 2 basic units positioned on the far left of the player board and place them at our headquarters. This wraps up the game setup. The map has all the terrain and players are ready with their starting decks. Next, we'll shuffle the remaining faction cards into each player's faction deck. Next, put it behind the screen. Then, draw 3 cards from behind the screen. This is known as faction technology, allowing players to choose from their own starting draw pile in the future. We're ready to play now. Next, let's check out how we will play. To begin with, each player will receive their starting minerals and will draw a different number of cards for their starting hand based on their playing order, specifically in a 2-player scenario. For the first player, they will draw 3 cards and receive 2 starting minerals. Meanwhile, the second player will draw 5 cards and get 4 starting minerals. For 3 to 4 players, the first draws 3 cards and gets 1 mineral. The second draws 4 cards and gets 2 minerals. The third draws 5 cards and gets 3 minerals, and the fourth draws 6 cards and gets 4 minerals. After that, we will commence the game, starting with the first player. In each player's turn, there will be a total of 3 phases, which include the first phase is the preparing phase, the second phase is the action phase, and the final phase is the income phase. In the first phase, called the preparing phase, players need to pay resources for continue type cards. If they aren't using these cards, they can skip this phase. Regarding continue cards, once they have been used, they will not be discarded. Instead, they will stay on the board and continue to have an effect for as long as they remain there. When it's your turn, you need to pay minerals to maintain the effect of the continue card, allowing its effects to persist indefinitely. If you don't pay, discard that card. In the preparing phase, we can choose to pay to keep a continue card or let it go and wait for it to return in the new draw pile. Now we enter the action phase, where players choose action. First, you can play a card by paying its resource cost and using its effects right away. If the card's action indicates what to do, players can act according to the card's instructions. You'll see that the card is split into 2 sections, with the relevant part for playing this card in the upper section. It can be observed that the text is in white, including both the minerals that must be paid and the card description in the upper section. For instance, on this card, the weapon, you will notice the number 3 on the left side. This indicates that you need to pay 3 minerals to use this card. The outcome of this card, as mentioned in the section above, is that we will be able to create 1 elite unit. This unit must be constructed at our headquarters, which serves as our primary starting base. At the beginning of the game, we can only create the headquarters because we haven't built any other bases yet. If we build more bases later, we can then choose to create units at those other bases. The section below will be used for fighting enemies. For now, everyone should not worry about this part. I will come back to explain the combat section again. The next action players can take during the action phase is, you can discard a card to get 1 mineral. 1 card equals 1 piece of mineral. For example, I need 4 minerals for a card, but I only have 2 minerals. I can discard 2 cards to receive 2 minerals, and then use 4 minerals to play that card. There's no limit on how many cards I can discard or play. Once players have completed their actions to their satisfaction or until their resources are depleted, they can also utilize command tokens during the action phase to manage their squad effectively. When the game begins, every player will receive 1 command token each, which they will use to manage their own squad effectively. Players can obtain additional command tokens later on. When they establish a new base, they will receive 1 command token for each base. These tokens are essential for directing the squad. You can choose actions like moving the squad, attacking nearby enemies, or gathering more resources. When you command the squad to move, you start placing a command token on the squad you want to move. Subsequently, we select to relocate the units within that squad to the adjacent space. Afterward, we will also shift the command token in accordance with the squad's movement. This indicates the squad has been commanded with a command token. Players can't command it again this turn. Remember, when moving into the forest, discard 1 card or you can't enter. This is indeed the command to move. However, players are not required to move their entire squad. they may move only certain units while leaving some behind in their original positions. In the event that we have one command token remaining, we can command a squad that lacks the command token to move to another location. The command token has a usage condition. It cannot be used with a squad that already has a command token. For example, if we command this squad to move, the command token will follow it to the destination. This squad can use command tokens to move, attack, or gather resources. The command tokens are already in play. The next command that can be given is to use the command tokens to instruct the squad to gather resources. By putting a command token into the squad, players get one mineral. For example, I might have this troop and another squad too. Then I use the command token to send this squad to search for a mineral, and I will receive one mineral. No matter how many units we have in that squad, we will only get one mineral, even if we have several separate squads. This action helps find more minerals, because this planet has rare resources. Players mine valuable minerals here. The last action is using command tokens to fight. The fighting in this game is long range, and we can send our troops to attack nearby enemies. Let me give you an example. In my turn, I use a command token to order this squad to fight. We will place the command token on that squad, and remember, you can only choose to attack an enemy in an adjacent space to that squad. This game is a war where we engage in combat using long-range weapons. At the start of the battle, we select dice according to the type and number of units we command. In this particular fight, my squad consists of 2 basic units and 2 elite units. I will be getting dice for combat as follows. The basic unit will receive bronze dice, while the elite unit will be given silver dice. I will pick the number of dice based on the number of units. The other side also has a chance to retaliate. In this case, they will get 2 bronze dice and 1 silver die according to their units. The attacking side gets an extra red die as a bonus, giving them an advantage. The attacker always has the upper hand over the defender. It's like we attack while the enemy tries to fight back. After that, both the attacking and defending teams will roll the dice simultaneously. Once the dice are rolled, we will examine the outcomes of this battle to see what transpired. We should gather the attack and defense symbols to determine their total count. For instance, on the Scarab side, the attack power will be combined with the terrain bonus. This gives a total attack power of 4, compared to the human side with a defense of 1 and a terrain bonus of 2, totaling 3. After the subtraction, the human side will take 1 damage. In terms of receiving damage, you should remove characters based on the total damage incurred. Each basic unit has 1 HP. The elite units have 2 HP. Just now, the human side took 1 damage, so you can choose to remove 1 basic unit. However, if they take 2 damage, you must remove an elite unit. Remove 2 basic units to match the highest damage first. If you take 3 damage, you must remove 1 elite and 1 basic unit. You can't just take out 2 basic units. Next, the human side retaliates with 2 damage. However, the Scarab side has a defense power of 1 from the terrain and rolls a die to gain another defense power of 1, making the total defense 2. As a result, nothing happens because the counter attack of 2 is perfectly matched by the defense. Additionally, when the dice will show the letter T, rolling this face lets the player use 1 card from their hand for each T symbol rolled. Check the cards in the tactics section below to increase your attack or defense. In this situation, this side can roll a T up to 3 times, which means you can play up to 3 cards from your hand as tactics to boost your attack or defense. The way to use tactic involves taking turns flipping cards on the board, starting with the attacking side. In this situation, Scarab is the attacking side, right? He rolled a total of 3 T faces, but he might choose to flip only 2 cards as tactics because he wants to save cards for use during the action phase. The tactic cards don't require players to pay. We can play from our hand during battle based on the rolled T. For defense, even if they roll a T, they might not use it since the attack side has many cards. After that, we will reveal the tactic cards we've played together, then add them to the attack and defense power, or there may be special effects stated on the cards, so we will handle the damage for both sides. Then both sides roll dice. The attacker chooses to play a tactic card based on the T faces. The defender then decides if they will play a card. We reveal to counterattack and defense power. Finally, let's see how much damage each side has taken and return the dead units to the player's board as usual. To clarify again, for tactic cards, we only read the ability in the section below and do not need to pay resources. A card is divided into 2 sections, playable in both the normal action phase and during combat. Players can use cards as they see fit, either now or later. Using cards in battle is good because it costs no resources, but you need to roll a T on the dice to use them. The action phase has concluded. In each turn, players can perform multiple actions. To recap, you play a card from your hand by paying the specified resources on the card. The next step is to discard a card in order to receive 1 mineral. This option may be used in cases where you don't have enough mineral to play another card. Finally, you can utilize the command token that you have. The command token is for directing our squad to move, search the resources, or fight. We can do things in any order. After the action phase, we move to the final part of the turn, the income phase. We will begin by taking all command tokens off the board or removing 1 exhaust token from each army. If an army has an exhaust token, we can't place a command token there. It feels as if we're instructing the army to pause for 1 turn. Once we reach the income phase, we need to take out the exhaust token during this phase of ours. The next step will allow the player to gain 1 card. Of course, this game is a deck building game, so players will choose new cards to add to their discard pile, gradually strengthening their deck. You can gain a card in 2 ways. First, take a basic card, which is better than the starting one. It goes in the center pile, and there are 6 types. We will add it to the player's discard pile. Once the draw pile is depleted, players will gather all the discarded cards and shuffle them together to create a new draw pile. Additionally, there is another option that can be taken. The gain card is from the faction's tech behind the scenes. The faction card we want is a secret. We can take 1 card from the 3 shown faction cards and discard it. After that, players should reveal a new faction card to replace the old one. There will always be 3 cards for players to choose to gain. Once we gain a card, it doesn't matter which gain option we select. Players can remove 1 open faction card and replace it with a new one. For example, if we don't want this card in our deck, we can choose to discard it under the faction pile and draw a new one. When we choose the gain basic card from the central pile, we can also discard 1 faction card from the back. After the gain card phase, players will receive income based on their headquarters and the bases they have built. For example, at the start of the game, we will assume there is only 1 headquarters, which means there is only 1 base. Players will receive an initial income of drawing 3 cards and getting 2 minerals. When a player has 2 bases, they can draw 3 cards and get 3 minerals. With 3 bases, they draw 4 cards and still get 3 minerals. Completing all bases allows them to draw 4 cards and gain 4 minerals. As players construct more bases on the map, their income will significantly increase, and they will have a greater variety of actions to engage in during the action phase. As players construct a base, we have the option to select which type of base to create initially. Each faction possesses 3 different base types. During gameplay, when we utilize the first base card or the settle down card after we have paid the ore, we proceed accordingly. Following that, we must select a base to position on the space currently held by our squad. If our squad is not present, we will not be able to create it. The base, once completed, doesn't need a unit to watch over it all the time, and it will also serve as a new spawn point for our faction. Each base has unique abilities that affect our entire army differently. You can find more details on the faction board on the player board. Building a base is also a key factor in achieving victory. In situations where there are 2 to 3 players, if one player manages to build all bases completely before anyone else and then proceeds to the next turn while still maintaining all bases, this is how it works. Provided those bases are not destroyed by an attack, that player will win the game right away. In a 2-player game, if we can successfully attack and destroy the enemy's headquarters, we will also win instantly. However, in a 3-player game, if we manage to destroy the enemy's headquarters, it will decrease the maximum number of bases we need to construct by 1 base. For instance, if I attack and destroy the enemy's headquarters, the base count needed will reduce from 4 to 3. If I hit the headquarters twice, I will only have 2 bases. When my turn starts, and I will win instantly. In a 4-player game, players don't need to wait for their turn. Just build 4 bases to win instantly. Attacking the enemy's headquarters will also reduce the number of bases needed for an immediate win. When a base is constructed, it must also be destroyed. I will explain the process of base destruction. To destroy a base, it must be done through an attack ordered with a command token only. The base will not take any damage outside of normal attacks. For example, if this side attacks the squad on the base and inflicts damage exceeding the number of units by 3, the base will be destroyed immediately. If the attack causes 7 damage after subtracting defense, all troops are removed based on the damage taken, and there is an extra 3 damage equal to the base's HP. Thus, this base will be destroyed. In the same way as an attack on the headquarter, if it incurs excess damage of 3 or more, the headquarter will also be destroyed. This rule applies when playing with 2 players. If we manage to attack and destroy the enemy's headquarters, we will win right away. To summarize simply, the base has 3 HP and will always receive damage last. If the base has no units and the enemy finds a chance to attack, Dealing just 3 damage will lead to an immediate victory. The base only has HP and no defense when there are no units present. In the event that you roll a total damage of 3 or higher, it will break right away. The minor base that has been destroyed will be placed back on the player's faction board, and that wraps up the process of demolishing the base. Furthermore, in the game, there is a system called General Unit. Any squad that has a general unit fighting alongside will be awarded special dice, specifically the golden dice. It is important to note that each faction's general unit comes in 3 different types to choose from, each offering unique abilities and gameplay styles, but each squad is limited to having only 1 general unit. Each general unit has passive abilities that yield continuous results and active abilities that activate upon usage in the creation of a general unit. You can use the general card in 2 ways, to create a general unit or activate an active skill without spending resources. The choice depends on the player's style. This feature enables you to customize your army exactly how you desire, and it represents of the Suriya board game. And in conclusion, during the battles of this game, there will be systems for both low and high terrain as well. This feature will be referred to as advantage tile. It enables players situated at higher elevations to re-roll 1 die when engaged in combat. But if they are at the same level, there will be no effect. No one will roll the dice again. This is Suriya: The Last Horizon, a game that combines deck building and war game elements. Each faction has its own unique playstyle that differs from the others, primarily due to the faction cards of each tribe. Even though the gameplay styles of each race are different, every player will have a similar way or steps to play. So learn the rules together at once and you can start playing right away for sure. The actions are on the cards and it's a deck building system. Each round you can choose new strategies. Even with the same faction, you may feel something new each time. One box can be played many times. Lastly, I recommend Suriya. I hope everyone enjoys it. For questions, message the Suriya or Hexa House fan page. Thanks for watching. Goodbye.